All right, now we're going to hop to the G5 High Five round robin here in week 11. That means a 5-pack of picks. I'm going to put them in a round robin together for you. I'm going to get things started with a team that we haven't mentioned a lot on this podcast. Just kidding. It is a UTEP Miner Nation podcast, going with the Miners -1, bouncing back off of their beatdown against UTSA. And here's the thing. They're traveling to North Texas, and this is a North Texas team that when they play quality defenses, they get shut down. And they played 2 this year. They played Liberty and they played UAB. They averaged 16 points per game in those games. The rest of the season, they averaged close to 30 points per game. So this is a team that feasts on bad defenses. UTEP is not that. They're allowing just 53% completions against them, 6.6 yards per attempt. And the other part of UTEP that I haven't even really touched upon much in this podcast this season is that not only are they playing a great brand of football on the defensive side of things, but they're just not penalized. They're not beating themselves. They're one of the most disciplined teams in the country. And when it comes to what should be a coin flip game, at least by odds makers, I want the team that has more reliability, both in terms of their defense and the fact that they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot. Another bonus here is that DeAndre Torrey, the star running back for UNT, is banged up. He was listed on the depth chart that came out on Wednesday, but he has been a limited practice participant. So you're going to want to go ahead and keep tabs on that all the way leading up to the game, because he's a big part of their offensive engine. And when he's in there, he's somebody who can run for over 100 yards and gives them an added dimension. Without him, I think that's going to be an opportunity for UTEP to really tighten the screws on a North Texas team that I think is a little bit overvalued both by bookmakers and the public, because they beat Rice and Southern Miss in the last 2 weeks. Play the kazoo noise on that one, because those two teams stink. So I'm glad that they snuck out wins in those two. And I think that's artificially changing this line. It should be maybe UTEP -4 or 5. The fact that it's essentially a coin flip at -1, I'll go ahead and take that value. And then finally, it's encouraging, despite the last 2 losses, that Gavin Hardison has thrown 5 touchdowns across those 2 games. He remains boom or bust. He's not a high completion percentage guy. If he's at 55%, it's a good game for him. But he does want to challenge teams throwing the ball down the field. So the fact that he's put together 5 TDs through the air in the last 2, I think that bodes well for a bounce back here for UTEP. All right, I know. Let's get started on your 2 picks here for the G5 round robin.
All right, for my first round robin pick, I'm going back to a play we tried a couple weeks ago. It didn't work. Well, I'm going back to the Rainbow Warriors. Give me Hawaii -3 at UNLV. Look, I know UNLV got their first win last week against New Mexico, but I mean, this is still a UNLV team that's 119th in SP plus. They're 121st in offensive success rate. I don't know. I don't trust them. I think this is just too short of a number against the UNLV team. Hawaii's 33rd in explosiveness on offense, and I expect a really big game from Calvin Turner here. I don't think this UNLV defense has anybody that can stop him. I really hope Day Hunter is back for this play. They're kind of not sure when he'll be back. They keep going. They've been going to day for like 4 weeks. So at some point that day has to come, and Day. Ideally, if he's back, that's huge for this offense. Like I said, the UNLV defense is very bad against the pass, and Cordero has been better. I still don't love him, but I trust him a lot more than Cameron Friel, who's been playing because Brumfield's still hurt. Friel's got he has 8 interceptions this year and just 6 touchdowns. And Hawaii leads the Mountain West with 21 takeaways. So if you're turnover prone, playing against this Hawaii defense is probably not good, because they've been really good at taking away the ball. Yes, Hawaii also turns the ball over, but UNLV is not as good as taking the ball away as Hawaii is. And like I said, I trust Cordero more than I trust Friel. And I just think the weapons that Hawaii has and their explosiveness is way too much for UNLV to handle. I'll lay the 3 here with the Rainbow Warriors.
Yeah, the Rebel Roller will still be there on the sideline. I just don't know how many times they're going to cash in against a Hawaii team that's traveling to the mainland. Yes, there are a bit of concerns, but in a lot of cases when Hawaii does come to the mainland, those are lower scoring games. And I think the Rainbow Warriors have proven that they can grind out some wins this season. Let's not overreact to UNLV finally getting on the board. I like that play. Let's keep it going. What do you have next?
All right, for my last play, I'm going to cheat a little bit, and I'm just going to play a nice favorite on the money line that I think has a pretty good chance to cash this. I don't really want to lay the 4.5 points. So instead, I'll play Marshall -200 against UAB. First, let's talk on the field. Marshall stumbled early in its first year under Charles Huff. Over the last 4 games, they are 4-0 and they have outscored their opponents 135-47. That's important to me that they're finally, obviously new system, new coach. I like the way they're playing over the last 2 weeks. Grant Wells is a quarterback who is super frustrating to bet on. I will admit that. He's very inconsistent, but I still trust him more than I trust Dylan Hopkins. Wells has 11 touchdowns and 11 interceptions this year. Not great, but he has 23 big-time throws and 12 turnover-worthy plays, whereas Hopkins has just 9 big-time throws and 10 turnover-worthy plays. The main reason I like this Marshall offense, though, has been the emergence of freshman running back Rasheen Ali. This dude is unbelievable. He leads the country with 17 rushing touchdowns. He has 2 touchdowns in each of the last 3 games and 6 multi-score games this year. Shocker, a stud running back under Charles Huff. For those of you that don't know, Huff was the running backs coach at Penn State for Saquon Barkley and Miles Sanders, and then he was the running backs coach at Alabama for Najee Harris. He just, talent under him thrives at running back. So Rasheen Ali has been terrific. And in UAB's 3 losses this year, they've allowed an average of 172.7 rushing yards. So when they get beat on the ground, they've lost. And I love this Marshall offense. Again, hoping Wells plays well because he is very hot and cold. But if he's on, he's pretty hard to beat. And the UAB offense is just 65th in pass success. They're 71st in finishing drives, and this Marshall defense is 7th at preventing finishing drives. So I think UAB is going to struggle to score once it gets the ball past the 40, and Marshall's going to be able to do enough to keep them out of the end zone. This is also, looking more at the off-the-field motivation aspects. There's 2 big ones here. A, Marshall lost 22-13 to UAB in the Conference USA Championship last year. So you have the big revenge factor. That was the first loss to UAB at home that Marshall has taken. They are 8-3 against UAB in this series and 5-1 at home in their 11 meetings. So that was the first loss. You can bet they're going to want to bounce back and avenge that. The second factor, this game is being played on, Saturday is November 13th. November 14th, the next day, is the anniversary of the team plane crash. Marshall is wearing helmets with the names of the 75 people who died in that plane crash to celebrate the anniversary on Sunday. I always love little factors like that. They're going to be talking about the story all week. That they'll probably talk about it in the locker room. I think that'll be a big touching point. And like I said, I also think they're going to want to avenge the conference championship loss. And they're just playing really good football. So all those factors tied in. Give me Marshall against UAB.
UAB has surprised me a bit this year. I expected more from their defense. Bill Clark has generally put together a pretty consistent brand of football, but they've been up and down a lot this year. And those emotional elements for Marshall and really Grant Wells. I'm a big Grant Wells fan. I think honestly, if they didn't have Ali in the backfield and featured him a little bit more, he'd be a top 10 kind of passer in the country, and certainly someone who would be mentioned more on podcasts like this, talking about the G5, but I want to give Grant Wells his shine. I think he deserves it.
And just to note too, on the anniversary of the crash last year, they whooped Middle Tennessee 42-14. So again, you're going to talk about it on game day. I'm sure this will be a big talking point throughout the whole week. And I think, the players are well aware of that story and are going to want to play out, especially with all the names of, the folks that died on their helmet. So yeah, love Marshall in this spot. Give me Marshall over UAB. Well, honestly, it should be a good game. So I'll just take Marshall on the money line here.
All right, to finish out the G5 high 5 round robin here in week 11, I got 2. And we're going to go back to the well. We already mentioned UTEP. So, not far behind is Bailey Zappi. Pull out your Zap guns because Western Kentucky is going to score a lot of points on Saturday. I like them over their team total of 40 and a half, depending on the book you're looking at. Essentially any number below that 6 touchdown threshold, I like them to go over. Since they flipped over to Conference USA play, they're averaging 43.2 points per game. They're even adding in a little bit of balance. Adam Cofield, before he went down, Noah Whittington as well, just giving them enough, in that 50, 60 yard per game range from, their featured running back. That gives them a little bit of balance to go with Zappi and Jarrett Stearns in the passing game. That's been so dynamic. They're up against a Rice pass defense that just isn't very good. They're not going to slow this train down. And from a ball security, long drive perspective, I'm not sure that Rice is going to be able to muck this game up. enough to prevent the Western Kentucky offense from getting hot. Because really, this is an offense that they can score 4 touchdowns in a quarter. Just give Zappe the opportunity to get cooking. And usually, that's been a good bet this season. So I'm not going to overcomplicate it. I'm going to go with the trends here. And I love the Hilltoppers to score a lot against the Owls. And then finally, a MAC game that's being played tonight on Wednesday nights in Central Michigan, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Kent State laying 3. The Golden Flashes, they've gone thermonuclear since MAC play started. 38 points per game in MAC play. Last 4 games for Dustin Crum, 8 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns, 0 turnovers. And then you throw in Marquez Cooper. He's had 3 100-yard games in MAC plays. In MAC play, 6 rushing touchdowns since conference play has started. So they have that balance as well. And the Central Michigan defense is not equipped to slow that down. They're 90th in total D, 121st in plays of 20 yards or more, and 124th in plays of 30 yards or more. So if you saw that Kent State game against Northern Illinois last week, where they're going up and down the field, hitting huge plays, there was a massive scoring outbreak in the second quarter. I think you're going to see something similar here. It's going to be a shootout. The question is, can Kent State and their ragtag paper mache defense hold just long enough to get off the field a couple times in this game or force a few turnovers? Because they're going up against a running back from the Chips, Lou Nichols III. He's averaging 170 yards per game on the ground in his last 4. And the only way they're going to stop it, it's not, running to the football. It's not putting extra guys in the box. It's game flow. And here's the thing. When you look at Kent's box scores in the last month, when they jumped ahead of Ohio, when they got ahead on Northern Illinois and they flipped that game flow and took the running game away just by virtue of teams trying to play catch up, they kept both of those opponents under 150 rushing yards, and they won those games in the cover. When Western Michigan got rolling and they were able to lean on the running game, they went well over 300 yards against this Kent State team. So the offense here is really doing double duty for Kent State. Not only are they going to jump out to a lead, hopefully, and put the pressure on Central Michigan, but they can also, by de facto, take the running game away. That's what's going to be needed here. I'm going to keep going with Dustin Crum and the Golden Flashes.